Hello, I'm Carwyn Jones, and welcome to this series of podcasts where I interview the movers and shakers in the Welsh economy. What's their background? What makes them tick? What are they doing now? And importantly, how do they see the future for themselves and also for Wales? I'm joined today by Ian Price. Ian is the Director of CBI Wales. Ian, you're very welcome indeed.
Thank you very much.
Now, you and I have met many times in the past, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people who've met you over the past few years. But you're a Cwmtawe comp boy from Rhos originally, Rhos Cwmtawe.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, Swansea Valley through and through. So, but I'm considered as someone now who sold out because I moved out of the valley when I was about 20, and I've never been forgiven.
But you know, in Wales, where you're from and where you live are two different things, aren't they? And you spent 9 years in the Air Force, which I didn't know, and I'm sure a lot of people weren't aware of. What took you to the RAF?
Well, I was doing my A-levels, and I rapidly realised that I was failing miserably, and I panicked. So I walked into Swansea, and there used to be a careers information office in St Mary Street in Swansea, just round by the church there, and I popped in, and the Army'd never appealed to me, and the Navy'd never appealed to me, but I quite liked the idea of the Air Force, so I thought I'll pop in the office, and I had a general chat, and before I knew it, I wouldn't go as far as to say I was signed up, but I was convinced that maybe I could give this a go. So I went in and I served 9 years, and it was probably the most fun 9 years of my life, I have to say. But
well, my father was 2 years in the RAF doing national service, and once they'd gone through basic training, I think it was they had afternoons off, and in those days they didn't know what to do with the national servicemen, did they? So
it was a funny old time because I went into telecommunications. They assessed you and then decided what best suited you, and they decided telecoms was my.
That's the story, yeah. My father worked in records. He can tell you that it was, give me 5 cooks for Singapore. There we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There wasn't much assessment in the 50s.
No, there wasn't much assessment in 77. I was utterly unsuited for what I did, but it worked quite well for 9 years anyway, so I managed to blag it. And
then into recruitment. You went to Acorn Recruitment, and you were there for just over 9 years. What took you down that path towards recruitment?
Well, it was, again, I've got a very sort of checkered career. I seem to have slipped into everything. I've got no structured career path. And when I left the Air Force, again, it was a sort of what do I do with myself? Because I decided that after 9 years, I wasn't likely to reach any exalted heights in the Air Force. So I thought that maybe now's the time to move on. And I went to Saudi Arabia to work as a civilian instructor for about 12 months in telecoms. And then I came back, and I didn't really enjoy that experience. And I walked into a recruitment agency in Bristol. And that was my first ever experience of a recruitment agency. And I think the guy that interviewed me discovered my ability to communicate. And I was quite good at communicating. So after about an hour of chatting about anything and everything, he said to me, I think you could do this job, he said. Have you ever considered recruitment? I said, it never crossed my mind, but I'll give it a go. And that was in 1987, and 20 years later, I was still in recruitment. So it was a bit of an accident. But as I said, I started off in Bristol. I worked for a couple of high street agencies, and then I ended up at Acorn. And it was at a time when Acorn was sort of in its true growth spurt. It was sort of a new book-based agency that was looking to branch out when I joined, and when I left, it was a really successful it was Wales's largest recruiter. So I can't claim all the credit for that. I have to say Matt Southall was the brains behind the operation, but I feel I made a contribution.
As they say, from small acorns, mighty trees grow, mighty oaks, that's right.
Yeah.
And in 2005, September 2005, you then became the director of CBI Wales. It's been 14 years, isn't it? More than 14 years. Yeah. Time's gone quickly. What attracted you to working for the CBI?
I was always we joined Acorn as an organisation, joined the CBI and became members, and I was given responsibility to manage that relationship. So I ended up getting elected onto the CBI Council, and the work the CBI did fascinated me. The engagement between business and industry, and how important that is, and how you can influence on behalf of business and get the message out there. Because I always felt that politicians always set out with the best intentions, and occasionally, for no fault of their own, unintended consequences occur that mean that what's going to happen is not best for business. So I thought that sort of dynamic was perfect. So I was the representative of the CBI for 2 years. And then Matt decided that he was going to sell Acorn Recruitment to a large French concern. So there was a general feeling then at the time that we would become a large corporate beast, and that didn't really appeal to me in recruitment because I'd been there before. So an opportunity arose at the CBI, and because I knew the organisation, we had some conversations, and I went in, and David Rosser was the director at the time, and I went in to assist David, and I've never looked back. I've thoroughly enjoyed the 14 years. It's been great.
Now, people know you as the director of CBI Wales, but what does your job involve? What do you say are the main objectives of what you do?
Well, it's going out there and speaking to businesses almost on a daily basis, sometimes on a one-to-one basis, actually going into the businesses and visiting or gathering businesses together to get their views. Obviously, at the moment, the hot topic for everybody is Brexit, and the situation at the moment couldn't be any more fluid. So we're canvassing our members on an almost daily basis to see what they're thinking and what they're doing, because it's challenging. You know, if we're to be believed, on the 31st of October, we're coming out of the EU, regardless whether we have a deal or not, and it's a worry out there as to how prepared the businesses are. So we're constantly in dialogue with them. We're trying to assist them and help them where we can. The interesting thing in Wales is because our business demographic is different to English regions and Scotland and Northern Ireland, in that we're made up of smaller businesses fundamentally. We have some large corporates, but we don't have as many as other places do. So we're out there speaking to a lot of businesses. So these small and mid-sized businesses don't have the infrastructure with which to go out there and find out about everything that's going on with Brexit and how it impacts on them. So very much it's our role to keep them informed and to warn them of any potential pitfalls that may come their way at some point in the future. So that's pretty much where we're at the moment. We're trying not to be consumed purely by Brexit, but it's pretty hard.
No, I mean, Brexit is a debate that will go on obviously for a long time. In terms of our business structure in Wales, you mentioned there, I mean, it always appeared to me that we have obviously a pyramid of businesses in Wales, but it's quite flat. We have a very, very large base of SMEs and then a very small number of larger businesses. And we know that historically we've been underrepresented on the stock exchange, on the AIM. And part of the reason, it seems to me, is that there's more of a willingness in Wales of people. They build up a business and they sell and they move on. What else do you think we might be able to do to persuade people to make that jump and actually perhaps become listed and to grow their companies rather than say, okay, I've made my money now. You can understand why people do this. I'm going to sell the business. How can we grow businesses into larger businesses that are headquartered in Wales?
Well, in answer to your question, we need to incentivise them not to sell. And that's a challenge in itself. And I heard somebody say recently that it's interesting in Wales that we actually seem to sell our businesses at a lower level than they do in other parts of the UK. So culturally, because £3 to £5 million can be a lot of money in Wales and can get you a lot of things. But if you go to London or the southeast, 3 to 5 million isn't a huge sum. So as a consequence, people are selling at 3 to 5 million in Wales where they're not elsewhere. So, you know, there's got to be a way of incentivizing people to hang on to their businesses. Now, quite how that's done, you know, the government needs to get involved there and encourage. And I think there needs to be some incentives in the tax system as well, because there is, at the moment, you're almost encouraged to sell your business by the tax system, which isn't helpful. So I think there's work to be done, and I think the taxation route could be the way to do it, in that you enhance the tax system for people that retain their businesses rather than benefit people who currently sell them. So there's work to be done there, I think.
And does that involve some kind of devolution of corporate and company taxes, do you think?
On a personal level.
I've thrown that at you. No, I know there are different views in the CBI, but yeah. Let's if we look at the issue of taxation, obviously that has to be done at UK level. Yeah. Whereas if we were going to incentivise businesses in Wales, in a particular way that would need at least an element of control of taxes.
I think you could devolve. I think you could devolve
yeah.
on that piece. I think where you need to be careful is that, if we devolve certain taxes, that we don't end up in some sort of rush to the bottom, which would impact
corporation tax being a prime example.
Which would impact worse on Wales than other regions. Yeah. So, but I think there are areas of tax that you could look at. I think.
Okay. One of the issues that we looked at about 10 or 12 years ago was whether, no longer than that, probably 15, 16 years ago, was whether resurrecting the Cardiff Stock Exchange, which still exists apparently, but is dormant, would make a difference in order to make it easier culturally for businesses to look at listing on that stock exchange. The impression I get these days is that ship might have sailed, given the fact that so many, the LSE is all electronic now. I've been on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange in Wall Street. It's just a load of machines with people staring at algorithms, where all the work is done by the machines, really. Is there scope for that kind of small stock exchange now, or have those days gone? We knew that Dublin had reopened their stock exchange about 20 years ago, but there were issues. Is there enough equity, investment equity in Wales? What is that something that's realistic now or not? Do you think?
I don't know. I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that ship has sailed. I went to the stock exchange last year, and I was half expecting to see lots of people with braces and waistcoats and running up and down and waving
trading places.
Waving bits of paper. But unfortunately, as you said, it was lots of screens and all very, very electronic and incredibly swish. In fact, the one thing there was a distinct lack of was people. So I think, I think that may have been something that could have been done about 15, 20 years ago. I don't think it's a realistic option. I think culturally we need to encourage people, and we need to get people working together. Hugh Jones from Ruthin, Jones Brothers from Ruthin, always raises the point that he gets ever so frustrated at the fact that Welsh businesses, he's got a family business, he's got his daughters in the business, and he's got no plans on selling it, and he wants to build it, and he's forever banging the drum about the fact that why do Welsh people sell their businesses, and he feels really strongly about it. And so there are people out there, and more people like Hugh, possibly we can get together and encourage, and they can encourage others to hang on to their business. Succession planning is a problem as well, because we've got family businesses, and you've got this challenge of quite often the family not wanting to remain in the business. And there's lots of reasons for it.
So we've got an element of the Mittelstanden that the Germans have got, I suppose, but that tendency of people then to sell, and a particular, do you think there's a cultural resistance, even where people might want to grow their businesses, to actually going public and looking to be listed? Is that seen as a bit of a big step?
Oh, it's massive. When you look at how little or how few listed companies we have in Wales, we are naturally conservative. You find that, and we're incredibly modest as well. I think that's the challenge, and I think sometimes we're quite happy. But, the number of times I come across businesses across Wales that I'd never heard of that are massively successful and doing some incredible stuff and doing it all below the radar. And I think sometimes if you want to list your business, you're putting it out there for everybody to know about it. And I think culturally in the past, I don't think we're very good at that. And I don't think we bang the drum enough for ourselves. So I think it's a challenge. So quite how you overcome that, I'm not absolutely certain.
I think younger people are more confident than previous generations.
You're seeing it with seeing it with FinTech now. Interestingly, in the Cardiff area, you're seeing what's happening with FinTech, and there are people out there and they see the fact that you make people aware of what the business is and how you do it and how you communicate as very much part of the success of the business. And you're seeing that now. But the traditional Welsh businesses, that's less of the case.
So we've got challenges for the future. Brexit's one of them. We could talk about that till the cows come home. But in terms of the future of the CBI in Wales, how do you see that developing? In terms, particularly, one question I was going to ask you is, I can ask this question now. Do you think there's anything that could be done to improve the communications between perhaps Welsh Government and the CBI?
Well, interestingly,
you can tell me now.
Yeah, we are the CBI Wales is the envy within the CBI of every nation or region elsewhere. We are very, very fortunate. Our lines of communication into Welsh Government are excellent, and they can't believe the fact that I can actually text a Welsh government minister, or I can pick up the phone to a senior official and ask a direct question. You know, that doesn't happen in Westminster. It doesn't happen in Scotland to a certain extent, and obviously, sadly, they don't even have a government in Northern Ireland at the moment. So you know, that's you know, that advantage that we have over the other regions and nations is huge. So I think, and you know, we were in the fortunate position. I had Dame Carwyn down, our Director General, a couple of weeks ago. She was on this sort of whistle-stop tour of the UK because over the summer the situation had moved on to such an extent with respect to Brexit. She wanted to get out there and speak to people to find out what was happening. I was able to arrange a meeting with the First Minister at relatively short notice for Carwyn to go in and speak to him to get his viewpoint. Now, you know, where else in Europe could that happen? You know, and it's invaluable. We are a small nation. There's only 3 million of us, and you know, we need to take advantage of that, and we do on occasions, and that's one example where we do.
And in terms of the CBI itself, then, how do you see the role of CBI Wales developing in the future?
Well, we've got to build on what we've got. We've had a good few years. Unfortunately for the business community, but fortunately for the CBI sometimes, in times of uncertainty, the CBI benefits from the fact that people see benefits in strength and being part of an organisation. So if there is a slight upside to the situation regarding Brexit at the moment, it's helping us to encourage people to come into CBI membership because they want to be part of that voice. There are challenges with that because obviously sometimes we take a position which always doesn't, you know, tally with some of our members, but they respect our view because every position we take is based on the comments of our members and is evidence based. So in that respect, we're only reflecting what the bulk of our members think. So, you know, I think we need to continue to be the voice of business. We need to continue to sometimes say things to Welsh Government that are, you know, are a bit tough, but to let them know when we think they're getting things wrong. And I think we've got a relationship that we're able to have those conversations. And I think the good thing about Wales is we do those face to face. We don't do them in the media. We don't do them on social media. We have the conversations, and we, you know, quite obviously we disagreed over the M4. That's one example, and we were able to sit down with the First Minister and voice our concerns. And now we're involved in the conversation to try and find an alternative solution, because, you know, the problem hasn't gone away. The fact is that the First Minister, and he's entitled to, has made a decision that he doesn't want to go down the route that's been suggested. So you know, you could shout and scream and have a moan about it and throw your toys out of the pram, but the best way to approach it is to actually sit down and find alternative solutions, and that's where we're at the moment. So these are the ways, you know, we've got to keep the relationship going, and we've got to look to help Welsh Government where we can. So.
No, it's useful for someone like me who's been on the other side of it for so long to actually hear that and, you know, to take comfort from the fact that the communications are right. I think you're right. The worst thing you want in government is for somebody to tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah,
that's in no one's interest.
Yeah,
People have to tell you what's you know, straight up what they think. And you know, any organisation like the CBI or the Wales 2C or anybody involved in any sector really, they need to be able to show that there is a distance between themselves and government, you know, rather than being seen as some kind of arm's length agency of government. So I take your point there. If we look then at the Welsh economy, if we were sitting here now in 10 years' time, if I asked you, what would you like the Welsh economy to look like in 10 years' time? If I said to you, where do we need to be in a decade? Which areas do you think we need to develop, and what are the challenges?
Well, I think when you look at what's happening with the semiconductor catapult at the moment, I'd love to see more examples of that, not just specifically in semiconductor. You know, I'm going to visit the catapult this afternoon, and I think that's been a real success. And building on that type of success, where you've got academia, you've got business, all clustered together in an area where we've got excellent expertise, and building on it, and making Wales an area that, you know, is a base for semiconductor technology in the world, not just in Europe. And I think there's opportunities elsewhere. I think at the moment we're doing some great stuff around cybersecurity, and there's a bit of a triangle being created at the moment with NDEC up in Ebbw Vale and with what's being done by the University of South Wales in Newport. And Cheltenham, I know, is in England, but you've got this sort of cybersecurity triangle, and there's a real opportunity for South East Wales to become a base for that. And there's some interesting stuff going on in North Wales with respect to offshore wind as well at the moment, which is really good. So it would be great to see North Wales become a hub or a cluster for expertise within offshore wind. You've got some great businesses up there, and that's a potential area. And it would be nice to see some of the marine technology that's being developed as part of the Swansea Bay City deal down in Pembroke further developing and then creating clusters. I think we've got to be realistic. There are only a certain number of areas that we can be experts in, and I think we need to find those areas, focus on them, and then really build on that and try not to be all things to all men. I think we've probably got things wrong in the past that we've tried to be experts in everything, and you truly can't. That can't happen. So.
No, I think you're right there. One of the things that we did when I was in government was we tried to attract investment in sectors where quite often there was already a similar business in Wales. Come to Wales because there's somebody like you who was making a success of it. So we focused on those sectors. I mean, you mentioned compound semiconductors. It's been said to me often enough that we're world leaders in compound semiconductors. The other area which people have mentioned to me is insurance. These areas people don't think about necessarily. And of course, we've got a number of big insurance companies in Wales, and that's an area clearly that's not going to go away. I mean, there are challenges about how do you insure cars if they're autonomous, and what's the risk and so on. But people will always need insurance in one form.
Well, interestingly, the insurance companies are becoming more and more like technology companies as well. Hence, that what's happening with FinTech and how that's developing is fascinating. You talk to go compare a Newport now, and they see themselves very much as a technology company rather than an aggregator. So their challenges are technology based now, and it's interesting to see how the businesses are evolving. And I think the stuff that's happening with Richard Theo and the FinTech sector at the moment is quite positive. And I think there's a real opportunity there to build on that. We've got good universities in Wales. So, there are 8 universities that are all well regarded in certain areas of expertise, and I think we need to use those as sort of bases to spin out these sectors that we choose to specialise in. But I think that's the opportunity. I think as well, we need to be a bit braver. I think sometimes we're not brave enough. I think going back to some of the things I said earlier, it's frustrating, and it was raised interestingly by Sophie Howe yesterday, and we're not natural bedfellows, Sophie and I, but the point Sophie raised, and I did agree with her, sometimes we have to accept that we're going to make decisions that people don't like, and I think sometimes in Wales we find that harder, and I think quite often we're encouraged to make the difficult decisions, and then people pile into us when we make them for making them. I think the best example was the Circuit of Wales. I think in the end, we arrived at the right decision, and I was really frustrated that people were criticised for making that decision, and that frustrates me. Sometimes it's the right decision. It may not be the most popular decision, but we've got to make them. And I think we have to be a bit braver at times, and I think that's probably where we haven't capitalised entirely on devolution, I think.
Okay, and the future for Ian Price. Where do you, how do you see yourself in the next decade, and what would you like to do?
I still love what I do. I'm very fortunate. I get the odd day where I get up and I think, oh God, there's got to be more to life than this. But in truth, that's quite
we all do that.
That's quite rare. I really do enjoy what I do. It's wonderful. What I get to go around Wales and visit some of the best businesses in the UK, and I get to talk to people that are massively passionate about what they do. And you can go and see a business, and what they do is fairly simple. It's not hugely sophisticated, but the amount of effort and passion they put into it is wonderful, and they care so much about their workforce, they care so much about their business, and I do that on a daily basis, and I get paid for it. So I for the foreseeable future, I hope the CBI is happy with what I do, and I continue to do it. So, and I hope my members equally are happy with what Leighton and I do. So so we can keep going at the way we are. So that's. I've got no immediate plans to leave the CBI anyway, certainly.
Yeah, don't say no current plans. In politics, that means we might do it, but we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, it's been a great pleasure to have had you on the podcast today. Best of luck for the future, and it's been marvellous to have had you to tell us a little bit more about Ian Price, the person, and of course about Ian Price, the CBI, the director rather, of CBI Wales. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.